2, 1. What's going on, folks?
Jesus Christ.
I was really hoping that my brain was going to kick in and give us a great introduction, and it just didn't. It just stalled out hard. Whoa. Now we're just on a roller coaster. Welcome to the world's first roller coaster review podcast. My name's Avery.
And I'm Joss Whedon.
Damn. We got him here in the studio, which is also my bedroom.
Yeah.
No, we're actually for the story. We review movies, or in this case, a movie.
Yeah. Although it's two movies. Worth of content.
It's two. Yeah, it's definitely.
2.5.
Honestly, you might be able to squeeze 3 feature-length films out of the Zack Snyder Justice League
with
cut.
some very creative, like credits.
Yeah.
I think that if you do like some extended credits or like a preview where you put a scene in after the credits to try and
or just like another ending scene that goes on for too long, just one more, and we could have squeezed 3 feature lengths.
Dude, lucky number 7.
Lucky number 11, actually.
Okay. Well, it's like they did lucky number 7 post like epilogue scenes.
What did I miss that?
You don't remember the epilogue? We'll get to this.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's a lot to talk about here. There's a lot to unpack. We've been
talking about this forever.
Emotionally, physically unpack. We had to carry the weight
of it.
We had to carry the weight of the 4.5-hour Zack Snyder's Justice League cut. And I mean, like, I don't know. I think our expectations were extremely low because it sounds like a terrible idea to begin with.
Yeah, it's like, we get it. He had to leave production and it was a multi-director like production, but
something tragic happened in his family. I think like either one of his kids or like someone died. It's like really sad. Like,
it is super sad.
Yeah, and it's kind of a shame, and it's kind of cool that he was able to go back and do this later. Yeah. In that regard, like
in that regard, yeah, because it's insane in general. Like without the context, it is insane in general to do what they did with this movie. Yeah,
and I think like that's the biggest takeaway right out the gate before we really start actually talking about the content of it is that things like this don't happen.
Never.
For anyone who isn't in the know, and it'd be kind of surprising if this is a pretty big deal if this came out, but HBO Max or HBO, I guess on their own, distributed a recut that was recut by Zack Snyder himself, the director, or one of the 2 directors that were attached to the theatrical cut of Justice League.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder shot additional footage, so he got a couple of the actors back, a couple he didn't, which we will definitely get into.
Yeah.
And he was able to recut the film in a way that was more in line with his original vision for the movie.
Right.
And so for better or for worse.
Yeah. I think both.
Simultaneously. There were elements of it that definitely represented an improvement, which I think is like, I have to give it its credit there.
Yeah, there were improvements made.
The complete recontextualization of many of the scenes was more seamless than I expected it to be.
Yeah. Depending on where in the movie we're talking.
Yeah. And there was some stuff where you could kind of tell that there were some cut scenes that were reintroduced into the final product.
Right.
It's kind of hard to tell which is which. We're trying to like pin what scenes were what. But there were also some that were just completely reshot with the actors coming back. Those ones really stood out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because some of them like, Ben Affleck's aging and lost a lot of weight. Gal Gadot.
Ben Affleck looks completely different.
Yeah.
Because the original theatrical cut, which I think they did end up using some of the scenes from.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The original theatrical cut there was a lot of reshoots already, and Ben Affleck had like gained weight between their original shoot and their reshoot, and then they got him back again, and it's fully like 4 years later.
Yeah,
and so he looks older. He's lost a lot of weight. I don't know for this reshoot, but hard to say. Weird. But he looks like completely different in some of the scenes, depending on where in the runtime you are.
Yeah, it's like they didn't even try and because he's like like salt and pepper now, you know? And like it's like they didn't try and match that at all.
Yeah, I mean, like I think it's like it's seamless enough, and there wasn't, especially because that's in an epilogue scene, the one specifically where it's very apparent.
Yeah,
and which we will definitely discuss.
They're like he's back to back in epilogue scenes, and he looks different
in each one.
It's so insane, and it's like also like. It was less noticeable because, man, when Ben Affleck is on the screen, is it a black hole of charisma?
Yeah,
it's not just good.
Like I've heard a lot of people say that they do like Ben Affleck as Batman, and I think they're wrong.
Yeah, I think like, and ostensibly he's just a very boring Batman.
I don't think he's a good choice. I think that a lot of the concept design around him is good. I think Jeremy Irons as his Alfred is a good pick.
That's a great pick.
I like a lot of the costumes that they put him in, and the way they've written his character now that he has development is actually kind of all right. But Ben Affleck, but not my first pick.
Yeah, and then also it's the context. You know, it's like they gave him finally some level of drive.
Yeah.
Third movie we've seen him in.
Yeah.
Like it's absolutely insane, and frankly unforgivable. This movie's psychotic.
It is a little bizarre that he was not a good pick, I don't think, and that could just be my subjective vision of it. I know some people are really jazzed that he was picked as Batman. Not seeing it.
Yeah,
just not seeing it. It seems like a misstep. Like, you know how George Clooney was picked as Batman for the one Batman and Robin one that came out in the late 90s?
Yeah.
Seems like a similar decision. I think the concept is just better around him this time.
I've heard a lot of people, like, you know, I'm on Twitter. People who defend Batfleck are just like, he's just bringing such raw emotion to, which is just not true.
Not really.
But the way that they contextualize why they love him as Batman is very nebulous. And no one really defines why he's a good Batman.
Yeah.
And I don't think the script helps him at all either, because his actual
dialogue definitely doesn't.
Yeah.
I think his situations that he's in, especially in this recut, definitely not in the theatrical cut.
I mean, he's still shooting people with a tank.
With guns, which doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah. It's
anti-murder
really unless it's aliens. I mean, like, that might be a comic book thing, but at the same time, I don't give a fuck, because it's just
I don't know. Whatever, we can definitely address that because.
Yeah. But he also like shoots Superman with guns too, and BBS. So it's just like he's the.
So maybe that's
Superman.
Just this interpretation of him. That seems like a core element of his character that they've neglected to focus on.
Yeah, which is a stark contrast to the Dark Knight series, where it 100% like it's a big part of his whole conflict with the Joker is that he will not kill him.
Yeah,
and like that's and it works really well when they use it.
Well, that's also a lot better written.
Yeah, that's fair.
just in general. That was like designed to be a self-contained, story trilogy, if you want to call it that. Like, there's one obvious standout in that series, and it's The Dark Knight itself.
Yeah.
The other ones seem to kind of come and go with, like, I don't know. I think visually, the Christopher Nolan Batmans are just superior in every single way.
Oh yeah, there's
really what it is.
No doubt in my mind.
And like you can see it in like Jared Leto's performance as the Joker, who really wants to hit that Heath Ledger shtick.
Yeah,
can't do it.
Every character now wants to be Heath Ledger, even like
because it's good and really well received.
Yeah, really well received. Like even Paul Dano in the trailer for the Batman with Robert Pattinson. I see that he's trying to do the Leto, or not the Leto.
The Heath Ledger.
The Ledger, yeah. He's trying to, and he's playing the Riddler. Like, it's a different character.
Yeah.
And they do this constantly. And like fucking
Joker, Riddler.
Yeah, they're both
DC has the best villains, dude. The most original villains.
And even fucking what's his face is Lex Luthor. He's also the Joker from Batman from the Dark Knight. He is. Like they just are trying to do it with everyone.
Take, Jim Carrey, best Riddler.
That's not a hot take.
It's just true.
That's a great take.
It's an excellent casting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They have him from time to time. Best Mr. Freeze, Leonard Snart.
No, it's Arnold.
Arnold Snart. Sorry.
Arnold Snart. What a name right there.
We should get into so we did Tom and Jerry this movie. That is my new term for watching it in 3 different parts in order to get through it.
The difference is that this time it's completely excusable. And the Zack Snyder Justice League cut has very clear break points
Yeah.
It is definitely divided up as though it should have been a miniseries.
Yeah. It's so weird that they just didn't do that.
Yeah, they should have just done that. I think they could have even gone longer and added even more if they did that.
Yeah.
Because it would have been more excusable if they had gone longer.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that. They are calling this a feature film, but it does kind of seem like the line has kind of been blurred a little bit there because this could go either way.
I don't know how that would play as a miniseries if you took a break between each part.
Yeah, I mean, like,
It
honestly,
would kind of be a bunch of nothing, honestly.
I think if there is going to be any sort of continuation to this, I think this shows that it will be an HBO miniseries.
That'd be probably superior.
Probably
on
the
what they
best
do.
move for them.
Yeah.
We discussed at length the changing state of theaters and how that's going to play in with these giant franchises.
Yeah, and like how huge it is for DC that they are now associated with HBO.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Like,
Disney
it's big.
Plus is basically just hemorrhaging viewers until a new miniseries comes out.
Yeah.
That people join for like a month, maybe
and
two,
then quit.
and then quit again. It's just tying
Star
yourself.
Wars is bunk.
Yeah.
Except for The Mandalorian, which is now once again a miniseries.
Yeah.
You
and
know,
is on break to film more. So
yeah, so there's not much there. Marvel is producing all sorts of miniseries, and it is not known when we'll actually get. Well, I guess Black Widow now has a hard release date, doesn't
yeah, it's
it?
in July or June.
But do people care anymore?
Man, that's not the movie I care about.
Yeah,
That's
me
not.
either.
I mean, like, I'll see it to see it. I'm not.
I'll see it too, and
I mean, we do
we might
this,
be-
so like,
yeah.
well, we're gonna see it, but
yeah.
I'm
So-
not stoked.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll probably be okay, but is it going to be the blockbuster that brings everyone back to theaters? I don't think anything could do that at this point.
Yeah,
I really don't.
June, July, maybe we're a lot of states they're
But
starting.
that's
to
what we
lower
thought
it to-
last summer too.
Well, now they're actually like a lot of states are mandating that 16 and up can get vaccinated by beginning of April.
I think it's what is it? It might be Wyoming and Massachusetts.
okay. The 5 people in Wyoming will definitely
Yeah.
save the movie
Did
industry.
you know
I'm sorry,
there's less people in Wyoming than there are in Boulder, Colorado?
that's pretty funny. I thought it
I'm
was.
pretty sure the population of Wyoming, well, that might not be true. It's either 62,000 people in Wyoming or 632 people. Or 632,000 people.
Okay.
It might be closer to 1 million people. Either way, there's less people in Wyoming than there is in Austin, Texas.
yeah.
By a factor of I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So they're not going to save the movie industry. We'll see by June.
No.
I mean, like,
Wyoming is not going to save the movie industry on its own.
this is
They can't do it alone,
it would
Ash.
be the first faux pas of Kevin Feige's movie's career is pushing his decision on these movies as long as he did.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Signing with a different. streaming
Endgame
service.
is kind of the capstone of the Marvel. I think it's the Endgame. I think it's pretty clear. It's in the title of the movie. I noticed it a little bit when Spider-Man Far From Home came out and was a full I guess it was the same summer, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like the next movie, and it was.
But it
like 2
felt
months
like
later.
done, and that we were still like ruminating on Endgame.
Yeah,
And it was like it kind of felt a little pointless. It kind of felt a little retconny. Like, remember in Captain Marvel when they just went back in the timeline and just inserted a different thing, a different place the Tesseract was for a little bit.
yeah,
And I think that's kind of what's going to happen with Black Widow, because they chose to release Black Widow, delaying it, obviously, like notwithstanding,
Yeah.
at a fucking bad time.
yeah,
Just not a good time. They should have done this 4 or 5 years ago.
yeah.
But what can you do?
Well, they wanted to they realized that ScarJo wasn't going to keep on, and that she was getting written out, and they wanted to move Florence Pugh into the Black Widow kind of slot.
Yeah.
Which is what I think that movie is not going to be it's going to be a little bit of Black Widow story, a little bit of like a setup for a new character. Yelena.
Man, as I'm sure that's cool to a lot of people, but I got to be the person who says I don't really care. I don't really care about Florence Pugh. I just I don't know. Hopefully it's good. We don't know yet. We don't know until we know.
Yeah, and especially with her, they were banking on the Midsummer mystique, and that's so old.
What movie's that? I've never heard of that one.
Midsommar?
That reminds me of a time far in the past.
Yeah.
Okay,
I got it.
From the before times. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about Midsummer in a while.
Oh, I watched Midsummer recently.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Mm.
I have the same thoughts I did before. This movie, though, speaking of artistic choices, starts off. This was a psychotic thing that probably weighed down our personal psyches on the film for the first 2/3 of our viewing.
It had a
disclaimer.
A disclaimer at the beginning that says that the movie would be in 4:3 to be more cohesive with Zack Snyder's original vision for the film.
Yeah, they referred to it as his artistic vision.
So there's a couple angles here.
This is a complex thing.
This is a complex thing. Because initially we looked into it and we didn't look into it.
Yeah, we did.
We saw this and we thought, okay, they're cutting down the image just to be in 4:3 because the theatrical cut was in 16 by 9 or 16 by 10, probably 16 by 9, a much wider format.
Right.
So we were just like, we thought we were losing part of the image through the first whole part. It felt claustrophobic and bad.
Yeah.
We were thinking we were seeing shots that didn't appear to like make sense for that aspect ratio.
And some of them were really weirdly framed. There were a lot of scenic shots in quotes because 100% they weren't using real locations. It was all CGI background. But they'd have these wide panning shots,
landscape shots that don't really lend themselves very well to 4:3.
Not that anything lends itself to 4:3 really nowadays. Like most movies can't pull off that format.
I think you need to have a very specific visual theme in order to pull off 4:3, which Justice League had brief moments of capitalizing on, and then hours of content that didn't make any sense. So we thought originally they cut down the theatrical cut to 4:3, which is a bad decision.
Because they framed it as an artistic choice, not the technical choice that it actually was.
So we've looked a little bit further into it, and we found out that the reason that it's in 4:3 is apparently that's the aspect ratio that IMAX is shot at, and Zack Snyder wanted to shoot it on IMAX film or something along those lines. But basically that's why he decided to do it. But here brings another layer in, and I might not know enough about this, but this movie was never released on IMAX. So like why it's just like it's a very odd choice.
So the choice would be, or what they would do there, and this is almost going to frame it more insanely, is that they would film it in IMAX and then crop it down to fit into 16 by 9.
That's what they did for the theatrical cut.
Yeah, exactly.
They cropped it down and reframed it.
If your intention is to release a movie in IMAX, because he's saying that they used 4:3 in the original shooting of it, including the cut scenes that were then re-put into this. It was all shot on IMAX film because they intended to release it as an IMAX.
And then probably after he left the project, they totally recontextualized a lot of that.
Yeah,
he probably didn't have the pull after he was like, I can't do this now. I
personally don't remember if it came out on IMAX, the 2017.
I'm doubtful that it did. Yeah. No, it definitely didn't, because the theatrical cut is cut down and reframed into 16 by 9 or 16 by 10 or whatever it is. Into a more traditional theatrical aspect ratio.
Yeah.
So we thought initially that this was cut down and reframed for 4:3 when the reality is that it's the other way around.
Yeah. And the insane part though is if you think about some of those shots, if those were cropped down to 16 by 9, they look fucking terrible.
Not necessarily.
I think that it was already feeling, I mean, it might have just been seeing it on the 60-inch TV in 4:3, but like some of the shots already felt really cropped, and like there wasn't much room to cut it down further.
I think that's probably lends itself to the visual ugliness of the theatrical version.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Like, there was some stuff that could have worked, like the landscape shots, like made so much more sense in 16 by 9. They don't really make any sense in 4:3.
No, they looked real bad.
It looked really disjointed. It looked like it is an odd choice, and it came across as an odd choice.
Yeah, it's so hard mentally to like look at that really claustrophobic thing and think, okay, how would this look on the biggest kind of screen that you have, and like where it actually fits the screen, and it's really hard,
especially
to
on those landscapes.
Yeah,
it was like really like the movie starts very early on. Ben Affleck is going to say hi to Aquaman or something, and there's like he's like going across some kind of icy plane, and it's in 4:3, and like if cut down to 16 by 9, that would make a lot more sense. It would display like the scale, the vast emptiness.
Yeah, exactly. But like as almost a square, it
looked odd, and especially given the format that this was released in, coming to HBO Max, on a TV. It made it feel a lot more like it was a TV miniseries from Sci-Fi in the early 2000s.
It kind of did, yeah.
Yeah, and that was like why I was concerned that it was cut down to 4:3 to begin with, but turns out it was a stylistic or technical choice, and it just seems like a bad stylistic or technical choice is really what.
Well, the reality, based on what we know, if they're choosing to shoot it for IMAX, that's not an artistic. I'm so mad that they put that at the beginning to be like, this is in 4:3 for an artistic choice. Or they could have said this was originally filmed for IMAX. To
be in IMAX.
And but
a lot of people don't know or care about that shit too. And I guess, Zack Snyder probably wanted it to come across like it was a creative choice. So
yeah,
I don't know. I guess technically it is a creative choice, but at the same time,
there's nothing more creative than using 4:3 incorrectly.
So that's what we got to talk about here, because there were other parts of the movie that did lend themselves pretty well. Like, honestly, like most of like the action sequences like looked fine in 4:3. Like the one that I'm thinking of specifically is not an action sequence, but it's one that stuck in my mind is when they were like putting the body into the van and they had it.
The frame.
Yeah. That's when 4:3 really shines, is when you have, like when you create frames within a frame. Obviously it works on 16:9 too.
Yeah.
But like, I think, especially in that circumstance, I wish he had done more of that. It would have like made more sense. But maybe like,
but the intention was never for it to look like it was on TV like that. I don't know. Like it's really,
it could also be because we saw it on a television in our living room.
Like that's what's really hard to like.
And so like, I would be interested to see what this would look like in an IMAX. Like if it was in an IMAX, could look fucking amazing. Like, but watching it on our TV, it felt claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Even though technically it wasn't claustrophobic, technically it was the full image. It just came across as a very odd choice.
Yeah.
I kind of got used to it by the end, but that first like hour and change, it was like a really, really distracting.
Yeah. And we were just like yelling about it. We were just like, well, why is this happening?
Especially when we didn't know why they decided to do that.
Yeah.
It was like, just seemed like a bafflingly terrible decision.
Like there are people I know who have psychotic movie takes who have refused to watch this movie because it's in 4:3. Like literally, they're like, oh, it's 4 hours and in 4:3. I'm actually good. And even though they were super excited to see this movie, they still haven't gotten around to it because of that.
Really?
Yeah, they put it off because
it seems like a silly reason to not watch something.
Yeah, but like it's like
4 hours. That's one thing.
Yeah, but it's like also these are people who like if you showed them a black and white movie wouldn't watch it.
Yeah, I might not watch a black and white movie.
I was watching Doctor Strangelove the other week. It's still good.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something with older movies. So you mentioned black and white because Justice League was also originally supposed to be shot in black and white.
Psychotic.
I think somebody just like grabbed Zack Snyder by the shoulder, said, "Look, don't do it in black and white.
We can just make it really gray."
Yeah, so they ended up just totally desaturating it, making it goofy. And so I think that that's something like I remember that being a criticism of the theatrical cut when that came out, is that the costumes look terrible. They look pretty terrible in this too. Yeah, which we'll get to in a second. But like the concept art was there, but the actual execution just left something to be desired. But like but that was something is that they like, especially once Joss Whedon got on board, wanted to do the Marvel thing and make it colorful and pop. And a lot of the costumes did not have the fidelity, I guess you could say,
a good way of putting it,
to translate very well to a more color saturation. So I would say in that regard, it probably, without like having them side by side, it would be probably hard to, really notice.
We talked about rewatching the theatrical.
We didn't. I'm glad we didn't. I don't think that that's the intended way to view the film at this point.
I don't think that I wanted to watch the theatrical cut.
Yeah, I saw the theatrical cut on TNT a year after it came out.
Yeah.
Like it got forgotten about and dumped real quick.
Yeah.
It just was like a failed project. DC is just too late
on everything.
Too fucking late on this shit.
They started to do the correct like formula for comic book movies in this movie, and not till halfway through. Yeah,
the course adjustment that they made. But see, what's really interesting is that like this is a Zack Snyder thing too. So like this is, it's kind of hard to say like, oh, they've course corrected, because like I would initially
from
think
the
that.
Beginning.
Yeah,
like he's been involved with it for so long.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to see where they're trying to go with this or what this actually means. And that's what I really want to speculate on.
Well, here's my thing. I think that Zack Snyder specifically went into like traditional comic book movie stuff and kind of telegraphed that ending to be more open-ended because it's meek. Like and the reason why we're seeing that course correction to like actual traditional comic book storytelling is because the outcome of what this like Snyder Cut is actually going to do for him and his involvement with that is in the air. And so he needed to give it a more open-ended kind of like directional ending, because I don't know, because nothing's confirmed on that end. Yeah,
nothing is. I would be curious to see what like perception to this from what I've seen has been generally decently positive. I don't know anything about numbers for income for HBO that this has made.
Yeah.
And so that kind of like leaves me to wonder, where does this go from here?
Yeah, exactly. And especially the latter half of the movie, because they do telegraph there's a bigger bad.
Yeah.
Which is something that I like personally.
Well, I found myself at the end of that movie being like, I wouldn't mind seeing another mini series with this, with these characters that they've kind of, recontextualized and fleshed out a little bit better.
Yeah. Started to give plots too.
Exactly. Started to give beats and like emotions and character moments.
Well, I'd say like 2 to 3 of them.
Yeah.
Gal Gadot's still a wet noodle.
Aquaman was like, we were like, by the end we were like, oh, I forgot he was even here. Like, why is he here?
They're nowhere near water.
They like don't even make any jokes about it. He just like, there's a part when they're fighting, what's his name? Steppenwolf. And he just like summons like a blue wave of energy. And that's what's really frustrating about just like all of these DC movies, is that there's no boundaries to their powers. They just do whatever
there's no
the action scene wants them to do. Gal Gadot's just making jets invisible with a throwaway line. She saw her dad do it once or some shit.
Like, I did it to a mug once. A mug of coffee.
My cousin told me I could do it when I was in college.
Yeah, and like God, there's so many like weird ones. And Cyborg has a main part in this movie, which is really weird.
They did him probably the best out of any other character.
Yeah, because he would be the one that I would say had a character motivation.
Yeah,
Batman's was okay.
It was better than it was in the theatrical cut. Like, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But still probably not quite as fleshed out as Cyborg. We theorized that he was the cheapest actor to get back.
Oh, 100%. Well, because like Ben Affleck's characterization was like a throwaway one-liner where he
about
was just
guilt, which gives him at least enough.
Yeah.
At least enough for him to for it to make sense for him to be there.
Because that's a very Batman-like thing to have.
It actually is in line. It's good.
His parents died because he wanted to leave the theater because he was scared. That is a classic Batman backstory. His guilt is a big driver of him.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's good.
No.
It's enough. Cyborg was done the worst in that theatrical cut. He just was there. It didn't make sense. Barely explained. In this, like, his uncle was a mother box or something, and
no,
I think he had sex with one of the mother boxes and like had to move out of his apartment. What was it?
He was in a horrible accident and his dad rebuilt him using the mother box.
Yeah, something like that. He was like, his best friend was a mother box. His best friend was a mother box. They like didn't get along,
and then they like hooked up, and
they hooked up once, weird. And then it was like, it can't hang out anymore. And
we've
the mother
all
box,
been there. It's a very relatable story.
Yeah, the mother box, who was a close friend, made him call her mommy during sex, and it was really awkward.
Yeah. And then his dad died because of it.
Yeah, and his dad found out and died of embarrassment.
Yeah. He freaking moved too.
Yeah, and Steppenwolf, like, who was his former roommate.
But also his Steppen father.
And was like bankrolling his like luxurious lifestyle because Cyborg's always buying cars and stuff.
Yeah, and he secretly wanted to bang his mother box.
But no one could get close except for Cyborg.
I'm not calling you Wolf, Steppenwolf. Just because you're banging my mother box doesn't mean you're my wolf.
Damn. this sounds like a better movie.
Oh, jeez, guys. He's just like a very meek character.
Whoa. Yeah. So Cyborg actually, none of that happened, but it was definitely built up a lot better and felt like a fully written like character throughout. They did kind of ham in like his Steppenwolf killed his dad on screen.
Yeah, and like he like dug up bodies like 3 times during the movie.
There was so many grave digging scenes with Cyborg. It was that was in the theatrical cut too, though. It was so fucking bizarre watching them dig up. Like it was like this like slow panning like dolly shot like across as they're like angstily digging up Superman's grave. It was so macabre.
Overhead shots too, where it's like his like half rendered
criminal,
body,
didn't it?
like just was like blending into the ground, and it was like there's a split second where it's like I see a gravestone and a pile of something. I'm not really sure what's going on.
Is that Superman?
They're digging up a grave again. Okay,
yeah, it's so weird. There's 2 full grave digging scenes with Cyborg in this movie.
It's one of his powers, dude. You clearly haven't read the comics.
It's like that's like almost like a quarter of everything he does in the movie. And then what's weird is that even though Steppenwolf killed his father, Steppenwolf proceeds to mock Wonder Woman about killing all of her family, even though like that only kind of happened. Like her mom or like her girlfriend or whatever didn't die.
Yeah, like one girl died.
Yeah.
In like the whole scene that they did.
It was weird. And like I kept thinking like, man, if that was set up in a movie before this, where Wonder Woman's entire family was murdered by Steppenwolf, how good of a motivation would that have been for her? It was almost there.
They had like
so fucking close.
I mean,
it didn't work.
They did Steppenwolf a little bit better. They just like
they did.
They gave him a reason why he was doing it. Anything beyond that to be menacing to our characters and why they had a relationship
didn't work as well.
Didn't exist.
Steppenwolf as a character did work better, and the reason is that they gave him this like desperation to prove himself to Darkseid.
Yeah,
because the biggest addition to this entire movie is Darkseid,
who looks like Arthas in the Shadowlands cinematic.
Who looks like a World of Warcraft character, but to be fair, so does Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
We discussed how it would have been better if Steppenwolf was just played by a guy in a crappy costume.
Yeah, well, it's like that's what he was in the comics.
Yeah, he just had a shitty hat or something.
He just had like a helmet and floated around. He was like, okay, dude.
And so like we discussed, I think the biggest thing that we wish could have changed for this is the scaling back of the stakes.
Yeah.
Superman died in Batman versus Superman. Mm-hmm. So what should have happened is, and they touch on it for like a split second, when Superman comes back, he's evil and they got to stop him. Yeah. You know Superman, you know his motivations, you know Batman, you know his motivations. They don't need a big dumb CG creature written in out of nowhere. That would have been a better Justice League movie team up.
Well, here would be my pitch. You know, Steppenwolf resurrects Superman to be evil.
Damn.
And that makes him a bad guy.
And then he could just be like an arch guy or like a henchman type, and then comes back later. Recurring villains. Boom. Layered villains.
Yeah. Or like they like then they have to kill Superman again. And then then they have to face up against Steppenwolf. And the addition of Darkseid, I understand why they're trying to do it, but it's again rushing it. You have to rush it.
I think they
because I didn't
learned a little bit.
Here's my big critique. They have that big scene where they beat Darkseid, right?
Or Steppenwolf.
No. Where the older heroes beat.
Oh, I love it. I want to see more of those guys.
Yeah, there
was like a giant like bodybuilder dude who was like, it was just so goofily enormous. I think it was supposed to be Zeus, and like I wanted to see more of them. They were dope. And then like a dopey Green Lantern guy shoots him with a piddly green like laser and immediately dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, kitty. Good job.
My big issue is the first time we see Darkseid in this movie, he's summarily defeated and in no way intimidating. And at no point in the movie is he intimidating after that.
Because they basically got the same crew of people coming back to fight him this time. Like, he's just going to get his ass kicked again.
Except they don't have the Green Lantern. So
yeah.
And no one shoots lightning. Batman does have a gun, though.
Batman has a gun. It's true.
Yeah, but like, I just think that's my big qualm with Darkseid in this movie is he's like,
as much as I did like that goofy prehistoric heroes scene, you're right. They did beat Darkseid's ass and it made him a little bit weaker.
The first time you see him.
Yeah. The first time you see him and you get the money shot out of the way. He needed to be built up to be unstoppable over like a different villain. What was his name? Thanos.
I like the snapping.
Yeah. That was his name.
Yeah.
And they built him up and they showed him only in like end credit scenes. And he'd be like, I guess I'll do it myself.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, like, that kind of took the wind out of the sails there for me, because this is like supposed to be DC's Thanos, you know?
Like maybe he's gotten more powerful since. Nothing about that.
No.
So who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? I'm sure they'll beat him in the next movie. But there needs to be a fucking death in the Justice League, right? Like they kind of did that with Superman, but they just brought him the fuck back to life because Henry Cavill's contract was still going.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they should have, evil Superman should have come back. That's the villain for Justice League. Steppenwolf tangentially involved in one way or another.
Yeah.
They have to stop Superman. Boom. That's great. The wreckages of Gotham or wherever the hell they fight them, but they form because the greater threat looms above. You know, like they could have done that. Yeah. And then beyond that, there's another villain. And that's what Marvel did well. That's what DC has failed to do. Is you're right. They rushed shit.
Yeah, they do. Like, there's so many lessons in, like, because like the whole idea of interconnected comic book storytelling is new. Yeah. And so I understand making mistakes.
Making flubs, yeah.
But they're like 6 years behind, and they have
finally starting to learn.
Yeah, like it took them so long to like understand how this has to work. And it's just all been rushed, and it's just Yeah. And it is interesting. And if I were a proponent of the Zack Snyder cut of this, saying like the Snyder cut needs to come out, like it all makes a lot more sense to me why these people wanted to see this version of the movie for so long. It really does. Because in comparison to the Whedon cut, I guess the theatrical cut, this movie actually has elements that like make you like most of your characters. Yeah. You know what I mean? The ones we've already established we as people do not like.
Yeah. It's
we
just
still
like,
don't like.
You know, they did pretty well for most of them. Definitely better for a couple of them. Mm-hmm. And then like the ones that still probably needed more development, like, I don't know. Let's talk a little bit about those multiple endings and the Martian Manhunter.
Oh yeah. There let me just bring you into our movie watching experience. We make it to the end of chapter 6 of this, and Avery's like, you know what? That wasn't bad. I'd watch the next one. Then
I would too.
Epilogue, and I pause the TV.
There's still 30 minutes.
And you're like, okay. And then we start it, and we do the Lex Luthor scene where he breaks out of jail.
Which was cool. Deathstroke looks cool.
Yeah, Deathstroke has a great costume.
Yeah. He does. Like the best designed costume. Most of these costumes, which we'll get into a little bit later, but are like a little on the weaker side, but his is actually pretty dope.
Yeah, well, it's just a great design. Orange and gray is a really good color combination. Then they do like 3 others. What the fuck others were there?
There were many, many epilogues.
Yeah.
This movie should have ended after they beat Steppenwolf's ass. Just absolutely wipe the floor with Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
They're like, it's like they're fighting him and it's like pretty close. Mm-hmm. Like they're like battling. He's like mocking Wonder Woman, whatever. And then Superman shows up and beats him to a goddamn pulp.
Yeah.
He is fucking dust. He like cuts his horns off. He like ridicules him, calls him a little baby in front of his parents.
Yeah, gives him a wedgie and then a wet willy and then fucking
and a swirly.
Yeah, like Darkseid kind of comes, the portal opens up and he just like fucking looks Darkseid in the eyes and goes, "This is you next week, nerd." Yeah, and like shoves his head in the
Yep. And then they throw his severed head, literally his severed head, through a portal at Darkseid, which he catches.
Yeah, and then like glares and growls and like does nothing. Yeah. I think they show his powers once.
I don't think they really showed much of it.
Yeah, they show him.
They showed him make
like,
the big symbol on the ground.
Yeah, the Omega beams were out of his eyes where they like dart in random directions.
That's pretty cool. I don't even remember that.
That was in the scene where he like Batman's having the vision, which what happens in fucking Age of Ultron.
Batman has a ton of visions in these.
Yeah.
So it ends. They beat Steppenwolf's ass, and then there's like there's at least 3 scenes like that of like the aftermath of what happens. There's the Lex
Luthor one,
which is like I think was the post credits scene for the theatrical cut, which was like pretty okay. It didn't need to be more than a post credits scene.
Yeah.
Then there's the the one that definitely has the most to be discussed, which is the orange post-apocalyptic Batman one.
Yeah.
Where the Joker's there. This is a completely reshot scene.
Oh, yeah.
And you can tell because Zack Snyder, presumably Zack Snyder himself, is holding a handheld camera and doing these shots because this movie, this part of the movie does not look good.
Yeah. Oh.
They decide to blur specific parts of the screen seemingly at random. And yeah, you can tell that it's a little cheaper. They're on like a green screen set. Like, that's okay. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Wonderful things can be done with green screen. This looked visibly cheaper.
Yeah.
So they reshot it, and you could see right there in front of you all of the actors that they were able to get back for the reshoot.
Which was one who wasn't in the movie until that point, Jared Leto.
Yeah. Jared Leto as the Joker. Ben Affleck, Cyborg.
Amber Heard,
who alludes to the fact that Superman murdered Aquaman. And then
Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke.
Yep, in the future. And then there is a shot of the Flash because they couldn't get Ezra Miller back, where he puts on a mask and it is very visibly not Ezra Miller.
And it's also a Power Rangers outfit.
Yes.
It's like so funny.
It's so goofy. So that leads me to believe if the Flash is going to be in future installments of this, they are just going to recast him.
Yeah.
I think people just didn't receive him that poorly. Yeah, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He just actually did not translate that well.
Yeah, so. I mean, everyone kind of thought Ezra Miller was a joke as the Flash, especially after the theatrical cut. There are some more merits in this one.
Yeah,
I think by and large,
his first scene,
the writing for him is not great.
Was pretty fucking good. The one where he's getting the job at the dog shop and he runs all goofily out and he can see things in slow mo. I think that a lot of the Flash's effects were actually some of the best in the movie.
Yeah. And just how it looked coordinated within the context of the frame that they were using.
Yeah, that was another good use of the actual 4x3. And you could tell that care was really put into these scenes, and it's unfortunate that they either got cut. They must have gotten cut from the theatrical because Ezra Miller is in them.
Yeah,
why didn't they put that one in the theatrical release? That was decent. He grabs the hot dog. He's got a little bit of humor to him. Yeah, there's some goofy shit, but it's it was good.
Yeah.
I think Ezra Miller as the Flash on paper seems like the perfect choice.
Yeah, it sounds like a great choice.
Yeah, he's quirky, he's quippy. He has the ability to be quippy. The problem is that the dialogue for this movie sucks.
Oh, so bad. And I thought it was just Gal Gadot with her mouthful of mush delivering lines in fucking Wonder Woman 84. It's just they have bad dialogue.
It's just bad dialogue. There's
my superpowers. I'm rich.
It's so dumb.
It's just no.
It's all of Ezra Miller's jokes were nauseatingly bad.
Yeah.
And it sucks because I think it was duplicitous, and this is why Ezra Miller was so bad. One, his jokes fucking sucked. They just were not good. Just out the gate. We're gonna put that out there. They were not funny. He's not funny.
No.
Ezra Miller can be funny. Yeah. But Zack Snyder did not know how to get a good performance out of Ezra Miller.
And it might be a script writing issue. It's hard to tell.
It could be. I think it's multifaceted that just resulted in the failure of Ezra Miller as the Flash. When he could have been good with some smarter script writers.
Yeah. And also, I think the actors he's surrounded with, they were told to be serious.
Yeah. And meanwhile, he is the one comic levity.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of pressure. I think that's a recipe for a good thing. I think that these actors can't handle the serious roles in the way that they need to in order to make that impactful.
And also when they're trying to deliver serious performances, but their lines are so bafflingly bad.
Yeah.
It does kind of drain a lot of the seriousness out of it. And then you have already your serious one-liners and lines are a farce. And then you have a character who is a farce of a farce.
Yeah.
It really just is kind of agonizing.
It's the tonal incongruence of the film.
Yeah. It's it really is. You
can see what they're going for. They're just not executing.
Yeah.
They don't know it's actors, screenwriting. It's hard to tell.
They needed better something. They needed better script writers. I think better script writers and bad performances still would have been, 80% of the way there. And
it's almost like half of their fucking leads are famous for no reason. Like Gal
Yeah.
Gadot was in like what, a Fast and Furious movie and can't act.
Was she? I don't even remember that.
And like
I haven't seen many of those actually.
Jason Momoa was in Game of Thrones as a character who didn't speak in English.
Yeah.
And then they decided to give him like a leading man role. It's like these are not characters that should be.
They feel like TV actors. It's like another, except for Ben Affleck, who has poorly done. But he's not great, but he's done theatrical movies. He was in Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
Wasn't he?
Yeah.
That was him, wasn't it?
And he also helped write it.
Yeah. Yeah. So like he's like he has talent. He's just not showing it off, I guess. I don't know.
Hasn't been trying for a long time.
I guess so.
Yeah.
And so the result is it feels like a TV movie, and then you crop it down to 4:3,
and then
it looks like a TV movie.
But then it's 4 hours long.
But then it's 4 hours long, so it seems like a sci-fi miniseries.
Yeah, it's like it's agonizing.
It's a really, really weird product that they've.
It's like they picked artistic ideas out of a hat and like just slammed them together.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I want to like Jason Momoa as Aquaman, but he had no motivation, no reason for being there. Fucking Batman goes and talks to him. Yeah. And he's just like, you should come. Something's happening. And he's like, no. And then like the scene ends and the ladies sing, remember?
Yeah, the ladies sing.
And then he just shows up later in the movie for no reason.
Yeah. And like breaks through like a water duct and like almost drowns.
And almost makes a bad situation worse for them.
Yeah.
Because they're like in the pipes, remember? And they're doing like cool investigative shit or whatever they were. No, they were bringing Superman back to life, right?
They were fighting Darkseid because they were getting the scientists who he had kidnapped and was asking about the mother box. Right. And they were fighting him. And like Wonder Woman had it handled.
Yeah.
Like she was
Aquaman busts through a pipe, which is apparently connected to, I don't know, the ocean.
Ocean.
And he gets in there and he swims. He had to swim to work, so.
Those commutes, dude.
Yeah. Fucking ridiculous. He just like literally like endangered all of their lives.
Yeah.
By doing that. And he's still allowed to be on the team. Like that's at least like a demerit, right?
Yeah.
Like how are the Justice League team members compensated?
Yeah.
You know, does Batman pay them?
I hope so.
Is he bankrolling all of this?
He better be.
Dude, like Ezra Miller spent a lot of time being the Flash. Or the Flash, the character Barry Allen, like he was getting a job at a dog store. Like, is he getting paid?
Yeah.
Does Tony Stark pay Spider-Man?
No, Spider-Man's a child.
Oh yeah, that's child labor, and we all know that's illegal.
Yeah, it's illegal, but he's a cool Billy. He's like,
it's super cool.
He's quirky, you know. He's Elon Musk.
Yeah, yeah, interesting.
Which is why I think all children should work for Elon Musk. All hail Elon. Elon.
I hope Aquaman got a pay decrease for endangering their lives.
It's like an alcoholic and
Aquaman is? Yeah, he kind of is. He's always drinking like a ton of booze.
He's just like
the first scene he downs like
grabbing a bottle of whiskey and leaving.
Yeah, and they're like, "Are you gonna pay for that?" And he's like, "No, I got a pay decrease." Batman docked my pay.
Unless you take sand dollars, you're kind of fucked.
Sand dollar. Unless you take buried treasure. That's what they should have done. He should have been
a pirate.
A pirate. Aquaman.
Oh, poor Willem Dafoe.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of voices,
I don't know if they got him back.
No, they didn't.
So they just recontextualized his scenes too.
Yeah, he was in it for like 2-3 scenes. Yeah. Lot less than.
He's such a good actor. That must have been like just like a quick, some hot cash.
Yeah, he probably like lost money on Lighthouse somehow and had to.
I don't know. He wasn't a producer. Well, I don't think the Lighthouse made any money. I'd be surprised if it did.
No, definitely didn't.
Yeah,
but it's still cool. That
talk about a film that's also in a weird aspect ratio that is just so superior in every fucking way.
They're apples and oranges, though.
Yeah,
it's like I didn't like this movie, but I'll have to be fair about that.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that Zack Snyder wanted to do that aspect ratio. Like we like the night when before we knew why he had decided to shoot at 4:3, we were like looking at like stills from 300, which is like a very wide aspect ratio, and it looks incredible.
The framing was definitely better in that movie.
So good.
Yeah.
Like that is like peak Zack Snyder's like stylization, and I just don't see why it didn't translate to this. Like, can you imagine if this movie had a similar level, if the Justice League had a similar level of stylization that 300 did? Like, I don't know why he seems to have gotten worse.
Yeah, well, like, man, I thought he had completely lost it when we didn't know why it was in 4:3.
Yeah,
I thought, like,
yeah, me too.
I was like,
this is
Twitter
just
got
unmotivated,
to him and he was like,
we were like wondering if he was like breaking down.
Yeah, like people thought he was a genius because like he had to like make the movie amazing when he didn't have anything, which is like in a capacity kind of what he did. I don't think that he did anything that was.
There's definitely some interesting personal motivations happening here.
Yeah, but I don't think he's doing anything that's like beyond the genre. You know what I mean? Like, I think that he met some expectations that previously he wasn't meeting in his movies.
I think there is like a small element of self-satisfaction in this for him. I don't think that's the whole thing. I think he was earnestly disappointed that he let people down and also felt like he had something to prove. Right.
Right.
And I gotta say, for as bad as that theatrical cut was and as low as the bar is, this movie definitely was an improvement.
I think that
like hand over fist in almost every way. It's better. I don't know why it's color graded the way it is. It's dingy.
Yeah.
I guess dingy is the best way to put it.
I don't know how, since they probably, outsourced all of the CGI can look amazing 1 second and immediately have something that completely destroys your immersion seconds later.
Yeah. It was like, that's how it was in like the Flash's scene. They did this one where he's like moving time back and it looked fucking awesome. But then they do like the close up on his face and it's just so obviously his face plopped onto a CG.
Yeah.
And then like with Cyborg, how the only part of Cyborg that was real, that was the actual actor's face, was the small sliver of his face that looked more fake than the CGI body.
Yeah.
It was so bizarre.
Because they put like a sheen on it or something. It looked very plastic.
It very much felt like it was in the uncanny valley. And that's what was so strange about just so much of this.
And like, the black Superman suit. Oh, everyone's so excited. The black Superman suit looks awesome. But it's just CGI'd on top because they couldn't get him back.
Yeah.
And like
Henry Cavill was like, fuck no, dude. I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, no.
I wonder if that shoot was like like it must have been a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like for him to just be like, I'm not coming back to this shit again. Like you think about it, like imagine like how like professional actors like trying to stay in character. That's why I almost kind of want to cut Ezra Miller some slack, because it must have been tumultuous when the director quits halfway through. Not by any fault of Zack Snyder's. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Like that's a legitimate reason to need time off.
When the studio has to intervene that much, when you have a whole different director with a different vision,
completely different stylization from a completely different director who's used to completely different script writing, and it must have been pretty trying. And so that's why I'm glad that they were able to do it some justice by revitalizing it like this.
Yeah. Even if it is possibly completely dead property.
I want to hope that they can drum something up, like a weird alternative Justice League characters, and cram something together. They brought the Martian Manhunter in
for no reason.
He was supposed to be like Lois Lane's like best friend or something. What the fuck was that?
Oh, well, if there was a scene with Lois Lane, I wasn't paying attention.
I wasn't either.
Because like Amy Adams was just being sad about Superman, and like I don't know when anyone established that we cared.
I mean, I haven't really. And
like I've watched all these movies. It's never been a good, like, interesting dynamic between them. They're both like it's like Aquaman and Amber Heard. It's like
it's like, why are these
no chemistry? So why would I care?
Yeah, that's definitely not one of whoever's writing these scripts. It's not one of their strengths.
Yeah, but there was still like 20 minutes fully of just Lois Lane,
so much of it,
like being sad,
which is the weird part. You'd think that they'd write around it.
Yeah, or like, if you have
cut it out of the 4.5 hour runtime.
Yeah, it's like you could just have like a 3-hour movie if you cut out some of just the really superfluous like dialogue scenes that don't actually contribute to anyone's characterization.
It makes me wonder if they really did want to kind of, make it seem more like it was a long form like miniseries type release, if that was like part of what they were going for with this.
It's hard to tell if that's what they were going for, or if there's like the ego of like, man, they cut so much good stuff out of my cut.
Could be that too.
Like
maybe a little column A, column B.
Yeah. I think
It
that
could be a little bit.
making it longer really makes it like seem like, oh man, there was a lot of content that was cut that I made.
Yeah.
You know, instead of the reality, which is there's a lot of reshoots in here. There just are character redesigns and stuff. You know, you're putting that into scenes that were already shot.
Yeah.
But in reality, like a lot of the scenes that were in the theatrical cut made it into this one.
It was.
Yeah.
And presumably plenty of those were helmed by Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
Like one can only
assume
that plenty of those were.
I would say at least 60% of the original theatrical one was still found its way into this movie.
Yeah. And which I wonder, like, did they even cut anything from it?
I want to see the Whedon cut.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see what the scenes that Joss Whedon did.
Thought he was making.
Yeah.
I don't think any part of this was really any of Joss Whedon's unique vision.
I think Joss Whedon was brought in as a name.
Like, as an emergency.
Yeah. And like, it was a recognizable name, and it's someone who the studio could just work through.
I think so. Yeah. And so, yeah, they probably were panicking because Zack Snyder had truthfully a legitimate reason to leave the shoot. And, you know, I don't know. So there's one more epilogue, and it's the one Ben Affleck, fully 10 years older, wakes up in bed after having an apocalyptic dream where he argues with the Joker. And the Joker, it goes on for so long.
The Joker just keeps fucking talking. And
like, it sucks because there was a moment when I was like buying it. I was like, okay, this is all right. And then it kept going. Yeah. And then it kept going. And then it kept going, and it became like a 10-minute thing. It's just like there were so many chances for them to cut down on that.
Yeah. And the Joker's monologue wasn't that great even.
Yeah. It wasn't.
He had a monologue.
Shorter but sweeter, could have been so much better. And then they just had to keep fucking going. It was the best performance I had seen out of Ben Affleck in the entire film. Gotta give him that.
Yeah. But
definitely his most believable.
What was Jared Leto's point even? I don't even remember. It was so vapid.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I was talking he brought up Robin.
Yeah, and like how he like Robin die.
Yeah, which is like something that we haven't seen in any of these movies, at least not to my knowledge. So I hope that gets like fleshed out a little bit later. We haven't
seen like Robin in like 40 years or something, like crazy.
Yeah, like I mean, he might just be too goofy.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, he says fuck in the TV show.
Dang.
He says fuck Batman.
Fuck Batman.
Fuck Batman. It's so cool. So badass.
Yeah. So there's that. Ben Affleck wakes up in his palatial estate.
He wakes up in the Japanese home that Wolverine is in the Wolverine.
It's just this lakeside resort that he has for some reason. And he goes out, and then the Martian Manhunter floats down and says like, yeah, more stuff will come out in the Justice League Part 2. And then he flies away, and
he's like, some people have called me the Martian Manhunter.
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Manhunter, sir. That's Ben Affleck.
Oh God, Mr. Manhunter.
Oh, Mr. Manhunter.
Mr. Manhunter, don't tell me there's gonna be a Part 2 because I'll snort. I swear I will. I'm gonna snort.
Don't tell me Leonard Snort's gonna be in it.
Oh God. Where's the justice?
Where's
for
the snart cut?
The snart cut. Don't be such a snart ass, dude.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, I've been making fun of the Martian Manhunter for so long. Like, because like all of these movies, people are like, yeah, Justice League's coming out. I'm like, yeah, is the Martian Manhunter gonna be in it? And they're like, fucking who? Like, the Martian Manhunter. And like, people are like, who fucking what? And they finally brought him in. The Martian Manhunter is in my Justice League, baby. The weirdest name for a character.
I mean, like, I just want Captain Cold, Leonard Snart.
Yeah.
There's no justice for Snart.
Manhunter v Snart.
Damn.
Who will win?
That's Kong versus Godzilla.
Oh, damn. Can't wait for that one, by the way. Holy shit. It's going to be bad. I can't wait.
I was on HBO. I'm like, there's got to be something new is coming out soon. It's either that or Mortal Kombat.
Oh, both of those are going to be fun.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited.
I got more enjoyment out of the Snyder Justice League cut than I expected, for sure.
I had moments, for sure.
There was moments when I actually was buying it, and I cannot say the same for that theatrical cut.
Yeah.
You know,
it was really that first act or two that were really bad.
Yeah.
Because like not only us not be, but like the pacing, they cut the pacing to be like Infinity War.
turtle slow, dude.
It was turtle slow, but they were shifting scenes in like those random scenes at the beginning. And
Very flippant. And they went from very intense scenes to very slow scenes.
Yeah.
And it seemed out of place, but I guess again, Snyder was probably working with what he had.
True.
And needed the timeline to make sense. Yeah. I want to cut him some slack, but also this is a 4-hour fucking movie. So
yeah, like and the reality is you don't it's not Infinity War. You don't have 18 characters, you know, or 20 characters or whatever
it took them 4.5 hours to get 5 characters right.
Yeah.
Whereas Infinity War was fully an hour and change shorter.
Yeah.
And had 20 characters that they were able to make.
Yeah.
Right. So
because they had already established characterization in the previous movies, something that like
this movie had to make up for movies previous.
Because Aquaman came out after. And then same with
so he was just randomly in Justice League.
Yeah, then the Flash and Cyborg both haven't had their standalones, so I don't think the Cyborg was going to get one.
And
anyway,
the thing is that they did rush Justice League. They should have dropped like 2 more movies in there.
They would have been able to keep their people for longer.
They could have spoiled some villains a little bit. They could would have spread it out, gave it some room to breathe, and then you wouldn't have to like recontextualize the team up movie with a 4-hour recut. You know,
the fact that it exists is really dumb.
The fact that it exists is kind of an anomaly.
It's totally an anomaly.
Like this kind of thing doesn't fucking happen. You don't get a take 2.
Yeah, you don't get a redo.
Your movie
like
bombs
this.
And then the franchise is dead.
Dude, that's what DC is literally doing though. Because they're also doing the Suicide Squad.
They're just redoing all of them, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Suicide Squad, by the way, came out 5 years ago.
Yeah. And
they're already rebooting it.
Well, no, it's the same fucking actors.
Oh my God.
Except it's called The Suicide Squad.
Maybe it's going to be maybe they're going to try to do a little bit of a sequel.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like a soft review because they did Birds of Prey, which was
which was better than Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
suffered from similar issues.
Yeah, but actually had some stylization. Like, this is the thing.
A little more focused.
DC does not learn from their good endeavors, which I think that Birds of Prey had lessons for this movie. I think that also Shazam had. I'll always stick by Shazam being probably the best DC movie that's come out in this new breed of DC movie. There's a
Joker was the best.
But that's not DCEU.
Well, technically not. I think it's under Warner Brothers.
It is under Warner Brothers.
It technically is. See, that was at a point when I think that they had kind of abandoned a lot of their continuation of the story. They were just like, we're just gonna release movies and capitalize on the property.
Yeah.
But obviously, the Joker played by Joaquin Phoenix is not going to be in any future material.
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix is a little too good for this shit.
Yeah.
As the kids say.
Yeah. Because they're already rebooting Batman, so that's like they can't.
I think that could be good.
No, it could be good. I just
Robert
think
Pattinson's a cool choice.
Yeah. He's definitely for like a young Batman kind of character because he always does look really young.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm kind of excited to see what the future of this. It really depends on how much this cut actually does for HBO.
Yeah, and how much influence it gets back to Warner Brothers.
Exactly. Because if it turns out that people receive this well enough, I could totally see continuations of this story happening on HBO as like multi-part, miniseries movie in-betweeners like this was.
Yeah.
And so that makes me hopeful that they can, dredge some like good shit out of the ashes of the DCEU. But who knows? They'll probably fuck it up again.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I found myself enjoying this movie more than I expected, which is, I think, the best thing that can be said about it.
Yeah. Should we get into our?
I think we should.
Okay. So we do 5 words, whether we'd recommend or 5 words rating out of 10, whether or not we recommend to watch it.
Yeah. You want to go first?
Yeah.
I gotta think of mine.
The baseline has been hit.
Boom. It's perfect.
This movie is finally hitting the things that it needs to hit to be a comic book movie, especially in this like comic book universe world. There are lessons that have been taught with extended universes in general and how those need to work and just basic storytelling stuff.
Yeah.
For any movie that you want to have a sequel to.
Yeah.
which they always intended on doing. And just now they're getting to it. Zack Snyder's been involved with the property since the beginning.
Yeah.
This is the first time that he's really made a right step in some capacity. That being said, a lot of boring scenes. Characterization's still really shallow. I don't care about a lot of these actors, and the script makes most of them seem the exact same.
Yeah.
Even though they have different things that they want, they all kind of meld together. I don't care or want to root for any of these characters still. There's some ground that needs to be covered. Direction's improving. The original was a 1 from me. This one is going to be a 3.5.
Okay. So I'm going to say for my 5 words, somehow recontextualization did them good. And the reason I'm going to say that is because of all the specific failings of the original Justice League, they somehow managed to flesh it out just enough to hit their baseline, kind of like you said. They did actually expand the movie in a way. It definitely did not need to be as long as it did. I kind of wish instead of it being 4.5 hours, Zack Snyder cut it down to be the same length as the original.
The question is can he do that without 4 hours? That's something that I'd like to know.
I don't think that could have been done without it being that long. I think just the way they set everything up, they just apparently needed 4.5 hours to do it. I think it's an interesting sidestep in the direction that movies like this are going. I think I would call it generally a success overall. Its most specific failings are in a lot of places similar to those just born out of the source material, like the footage that they had or the script that they had, didn't really change very much just in spite of the reshot scenes. Yeah. And, so you can only do so much with recontextualizing, stuff that is bad. He had to use the footage with Ezra Miller's Flash in it, whether he liked it or not.
Right.
But I would say, whereas the original theatrical cut is a 2, I would say this has made it an okay movie. I'm going to give this a 5.5.
Okay.
Which I think is it finally was not a failure.
Yeah, it was
not failing. There we go. 5 words for you.
I don't disagree. I think that they are trending in the right direction. I just think the big issue is in a superhero movie, my superhero should feel different. And they don't. The only one who felt different was Ezra Miller.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh my God, his god awful script. So bad. But that's a problem that's born out of that theatrical cut. It's if he could get him back and reshoot those scenes, would it be better? Maybe. We'll never know. But
I'm gonna say I'm gonna give it a 4 instead of a 3.5 because this is an interesting piece of movie history that is happening
very weird
right in front of our eyes. I don't think
this could change everything.
Yeah, the idea of a take 2 on a popular franchise that was done poorly.
Yeah.
Who knows what that means for the future of movies?
I mean, DC's kind of surprised us all with just redoing shit and completely getting away with it and somehow getting funding and viewership. And it's
and fanboys.
They're very strange.
They're very rabid. The fans of that, even the DCU.
I think those fans aren't necessarily. They're fans of the property, and they think that they really like what they're seeing.
Yeah, because they
see ooh, look, a Batman.
Yeah, well, DC was top dog for so long, and then the Marvel movies came out, and they blew everything out of the water, and now they need to glom onto something with that because this is the property that they grew up with.
In that respect, they did it.
Yeah, they got what they wanted.
So I don't know if people out there are happy about it, then good for them. That's good because I think that this actually is the recontextualization is successful in most respects. Yeah. Except for you can't go back and fix those shitty costumes.
Can't fix those shitty costumes.
Except for Superman's, they just fixed his.
Yeah. The Flash has to stay terrible.
Yeah. It sucks because again, the design of the Flash's costume looked kind of fucking cool.
You could see where they were going with everything, but also your red costume doesn't look good in your gray movie.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just and then you have Batman's costume that he wears for most of it, which is just so clearly muscle padding.
Oh yeah, it looks and even the bat on it
stretchy,
is fat.
It's just stretchy Under Armour material and you could see the stitches. It's it just looks crappy.
Have weird CGI on the back of his neck. It's really weird. And then
did they? I didn't even notice that.
Oh yeah, because like it's where like the cape attaches, but they didn't actually attach a cape.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, it's so strange because I look at like, I compare that to like Tony Stark's Iron Man suit in Civil War, where it looks like a car bumper.
Yeah.
Like that shit's cool as hell. And that was an actual in-camera prop.
Yeah.
That they used for his like shoulder piece. It was it looks like a car bumper. It's ridiculous.
It's huge.
It's so goofy. But like it wasn't stupid. And just like seeing the stitching on Batman's shoulders, I don't know. I'm sure the costume workers did everything they could to make it as good as they could. You know, I'm not trying to slight their work there, but personally, I don't know. Whatever. Also, something I noticed.
Not sure where they brought back Amber Heard because I'm positive she's off the fucking movie.
Yeah, she got kicked for something. For being racist or something.
For doing domestic abuse at Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Like,
seriously.
no, that's literally what.
That probably happened, that she got kicked off before they started reshooting this shit.
Yeah.
I mean, like it had to have, right?
Yeah, unless that Jared Leto scene was cut, which would be insane.
No way.
I don't fucking believe that.
No, all of the actors like look different. There's no fucking way.
They could probably just get her back because she's desperate for work because she's likely not going to work for a couple of years before everyone forgets this happens. And
and then she's rehabilitated in the media.
Yeah.
So
she'll like do like a really serious role where she cries twice on camera.
Yeah, and they'll be like, "Wow, Amber Heard stuns audiences in her stunning revival, stunningly."
Yeah.
So I don't know, but yeah, that's Justice League, the Snyder Cut. It's better than we expected, but
a lot of problems.
But still a lot of problems. I think more than anything, it's the implications that this movie holds for what studios can do in the future, demanding. If this makes a lot of money for HBO, shit, every director is going to start doing this shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, they already have, so much of a monopoly in like 3 or 4 movie studios.
Yeah.
They can kind of do what they want. They have distribution on lock. Could totally see it happen.
I'm curious to see how other distributors like HBO, how they start to handle this kind of thing. Like, Disney's obviously like a one-stop shop. So are they going to start releasing like longer cuts of movies? Who knows?
Yeah, the director's cut is like kind of a lost entity in general.
Yeah.
It doesn't really exist without DVDs because that was the big medium that it came on, was
where you got
DVDs.
Like deleted scenes and shit like that.
Yeah.
So like also like how does HBO make money on this?
My guess, well, besides subscriptions, I think that there's just a contract, which is...
But like between who and who?
WB for the distribution, right? So they would get,
So you think WB paid HBO to distribute it?
So my assumption would be that WB would pay up front to have movies on HBO, and then HBO pays back a percentage of the monthly subscriptions across all users back to WB. So what they're hedging is WB is hedging that enough people will join to watch WB movies that it'll increase that monthly subscription cut that they're getting, and that kickback ends up outweighing the amount that they paid to get the movies onto the streaming service.
Man, I it's hard to see. It's weird, but I mean, I guess everybody is watching movies solely at home now.
Yeah.
So I'm sure like probably subscriptions for services like that probably went through the roof.
I mean, WB maybe not even paying up front and trying to offset that. They might just be like, we'll give you these movies to distribute if we get the X percentage of each monthly subscriber.
Yeah, maybe. Very interesting. Well, who knows what the future holds for that. We'll obviously be keeping our eye on it as things progress. But I think for now, this has been a long episode, so we're going to let you guys go. Thank you guys so much for listening. We love you all so much. Goodbye.